Good afternoon, everyone. I'm coming to you, as you can see, this morning from the library of the church, just outside of the office. And I'd like to talk with you about a few things today. First, I hope that you are all well. I hope that you are finding yourselves safe, healthy, and sane. And sometimes it's that third one that's the most challenging when our whole world feels a little upside down. One of the things that makes it feel upside down is the fact that we have not been gathering together for in-person worship since March. It's a longer time, I think, than it has been on the calendar. And all of us are a little zoomed out, feeling the stress of the oddity of this time. So let's begin today with looking at something here in our library. In 1984, the diocese published a book about the first 200 years of the diocese. And I would like to read you the first couple of paragraphs from the entry on the Church of St. John the Evangelist, Duxbury. Episcopal services were first held in Duxbury during the summer of 1881 by the Reverend James Sanderson, who was the rector of Christ Church in Plymouth. They were not resumed again until the summer of 1883, when Lucy Sprague Sampson, a communicant at St. John the Evangelist Church in Boston, began to lend her missionary talents to her native community. She arranged for lay leaders and clergy, obtained a hall for services, and served as treasurer and clerk for the small group of Englishmen, many of whom worked for the Anglo-American Telegraph Company. In the winter of 1884, funds were raised in Duxbury and Boston to convert the Union Schoolhouse into the Church of St. John the Evangelist. I believe, by the way, that old Union Schoolhouse stood where, right across from Snug Harbor, where Jim Queeney's house is now. Services, led by the Reverend Gustavus Tuckerman, were held mostly in the summer months until 1887, when a meeting of male communicants at the cable office on April 14th voted to organize officially as a mission in union with the diocese. The proposal for mission status was not received with unanimity. Lucy Sampson came under particular criticism. Some members of the group felt threatened by her womanly independence, and according to a later historian, the Reverend David Siegenthaler, recently of blessed memory, God rest his soul, some perceived her to be, quote, engineering the whole matter for her personal gratification, unquote. But by her own account, Lucy Sampson seemed to have been motivated by the same missionary spirit that was characteristic of her home mission in Boston. In April of 1887, she wrote, "I have not the least personal feeling in this matter of the organization of the parish. I only wish that to be done which will best forward the work in Duxbury and bring forth the most fruit to our Lord's honor and glory. I have always hoped the time would come when the work could be carried on through the winter, and you cannot imagine how thankful I am that it has been so." The congregation's spirit of mission was a prominent feature of the early years. The Women's Auxiliary, called the St. John's Guild, was organized in 1888. They contributed to the work of the Sunday school and sewed clothing for numerous convents, hospitals, and in particular for St. Elizabeth's School for Indian girls. The mission understood the Christian obligation to spread the good news, and by the 1890s, services were being held in Kingston, Green Harbor in Marshfield, and the Duxbury Almshouse, where Christmas gifts were brought to the town poor. The story goes on, of course, but what I would like to focus on is the fact that Lucy Sampson talked about her hope that the work could continue during the winter. What's curious, to quote Shakespeare, is that the winter of our discontent recently has been now, and in fact is ongoing. As spring is being sprung outside, we are yet within the winter of our not being able to be at church together. And so it feels strange. It feels strange. But the work goes on. The desire for mission goes on, and the hope that the work could continue during the winter was Lucy's then, and it's ours now. And I would like to tell you that the work is going on. We are blessed to have so many people, dedicated staff and volunteers that are continuing to do good work in this congregation and for the wider community right now. You may have heard that the governor has lifted restrictions on worship in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. That is true, and yet that is not the whole story. The restrictions are lifted pending and based on the limitations associated with the health system. So while there are no legal restrictions, there are health restrictions. In fact, the governor's pronouncement was really a political move to fend off a religious liberties lawsuit from a coalition of fundamentalist congregations. And so, if you look at the health guidelines associated with regathering, it really doesn't mean that churches are open right now. And in fact, being Episcopalians, we are not congregationalist in nature. And so the bishop's previous directive that no in-person worship be conducted until the 1st of July remains in effect. On Tuesday, shortly after the governor's pronouncement, the bishop also issued a booklet, a 20-page booklet that described how we were going to look at regathering. And this looked at several different things. It looked at public health factors. It looked at how our in-person worship was going to be rolled out in various different stages of the health situation. And it looked at other things as well, which included education, fellowship, and outreach. And so in yesterday's tidings, I included a schematic that I wrote up based on the bishop's directives. So it looks like this when you print it out on a single sheet of paper. And it's a little daunting, but actually this is the simplified version. So if you look at tidings and you look at this chart, it can give you the beginnings of an understanding of how it is that we are going to begin regathering, begin worshiping in person again. And yet it is a little complicated. And so what I would like to announce right now is that I am going to be setting up a Zoom meeting for anyone in the congregation who is interested in meeting and asking me any questions that you would have about how we are going to be engaging in this regathering work. The meeting will be tomorrow, Saturday at 11 a.m., If you're available, great. If not, please let me know. Send me an email of when another good time might be, and we might schedule a second one. But for now, we're just going to schedule the one tomorrow, Saturday at 11 a.m. So I look forward to seeing you. I look forward to actually seeing you, as opposed to Sunday when you just get to see us. But I look forward to seeing you and entertaining your questions and thoughts and concerns and inspirations and hope about how we will return to a new normal, because our returning to work in the church is not going to look quite the same as it did before. And part of that looking different is that I'm pleased and excited to announce that last night the vestry did vote to install a new sound and integrated video system in the church. And so hopefully by the time we are all back in person, we will be able to continue our online presence in a really very more savvy way than we have now, and that will provide also an opportunity for those who are not immediately comfortable with returning to in-person worship to continue to watch us online on Sundays and at other times. And it will also allow for the continuation of a growing congregation we have across the country. We have a number of people who are regularly watching us in states all over the place, not even just Massachusetts. And so that congregation, that growing, that new remote congregation, will be allowed to continue its connection with this parish and grow as well. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow if you're available. God bless you all, and let's continue the work of mission to God's honor and glory, even in the winter of our discontent. God bless you all.